My name is Brad Griffith, and I work for the Oklahoma State Regents of Higher Education, which is the coordinating board for Oklahoma's 25 public colleges and universities. So, the four of us today are going to help you understand how we basically started from nothing in Oklahoma. Just the individuals that we have here on this call, as well as our colleagues across the state at institutions, and it built a formalized statewide open education initiative in Oklahoma. I'd like to turn it over to Jamie, who's going to first talk a bit about the history of our online collaboration initiatives in Oklahoma, which is actually where our open education initiatives really started.
Well, the Oklahoma State Regents for Higher Education established the Online Education Task Force in 2012. So I guess you could say the roots of our OER efforts go back to that. Their goal was to encourage greater collaboration between our institutions. Online classes were being developed, and early conversations about overcoming the high cost of textbooks were happening. But most of this was happening in silos, with not much being coordinated between or even within the different institutions. The task force was created officially to, quote, determine the extent to which online education is accessible, efficient, and effective. In 2015, they commissioned a study called Moving Forward in Online Education. There were 3 working groups formed: affordable content, professional development, and online learning technology. They gathered faculty, librarians, and others working in online ed from institutions throughout the state. In March of 2016, the working group facilitators presented a report to the task force, and its top recommendation, which came from all 3 groups, was that the conversations needed to continue. They recommended that an online working group be formed, and COLE was established, the Council for Online Learning Excellence. I joined as an inaugural member in May of 2016, and we started meeting that summer. The first recollection I have of targeted and focused OER goals was in the spring of 2017. I've got some email history showing the term OER was starting to replace affordable learning content more and more consistently. And at the big in-person summer meeting that year, 2017, we spent a whole hour on OER. The session was called Growing Opportunities for Open Educational Resources. And indeed, after that meeting, the number 1 priority for the group was to grow OER strategies, followed by establish formal user groups. So the COLE OER group was born. Veronica McGowan, who was at Southwestern Oklahoma State University at the time, she stepped up to be the first chair of that group, and I signed on as her co-chair. It really was Veronica, though, who did most of the heavy lifting in those early years. We got lots of folks involved in our meetings and our conversations, and we actually were able to pull enough data together to apply for the Department of Education's Open Textbook Pilot Grant. We didn't get that grant, but we used the feedback we got to reinforce the need for a formal consortium, as well as the need for stable funding to support these grassroots efforts. At that point, things started to really happen fast. The Regents 2017 report of the task force on the future of higher education had also recognized the need for funding, as well as a more formal partnership or a collaborative investment. In 2018, the Online Consortium of Oklahoma was established, and in 2019, a full-time director-level staff position was added at the Regents office to coordinate and support these efforts. That's how we got Brad on our team here to lead and coordinate our efforts. I think Kathy is now going to tell us more about the work that COLE has been doing more recently, and then Anne will share some more about the OCO.
All right, so the Council for Online Learning Excellence includes several subcommittees, one of which is charged with envisioning statewide collaborative engagement with OER and open practices. The subcommittee includes representatives from most, if not all, the institutes of higher education in the state of Oklahoma. In short, the membership includes a range of roles and rank. This provides multiple perspectives and allows us to consider and anticipate how our work will benefit our communities, as well as anticipate what challenges might arise. We work to stay in touch with what's happening with other subcommittees, such as accessibility, professional development, policy, and student success, intentionally attentive to places where our interests and skills overlap, and in what ways we can come alongside others' visions. We've also been intentional about setting measurable goals, both short-term and long-term. We document our work towards those goals, we celebrate their completion, and we joyfully welcome opportunities to engage with them iteratively. For example, The OER Basics and Beyond micro course and credential grew out of our desire to have a Regents branded deliverable indicating participation in open initiatives. The micro course is shared out during our annual Fall OER Summit, again at our annual Spring Learning Innovation Summit, and is used by several institutions in the state, mine included, to generate interest in and visibly acknowledge those exploring open. Our annual OER Summit is another example of a project which started as a short-term measurable goal and has grown into a yearly event, which continues to expand and evolve in response to the needs, expertise, and curiosity of our communities. Our first year, we included discipline-specific focus groups, facilitating subject matter expert meetups. Subsequent years have built upon that, providing opportunities to network and connect energies and efforts across the state. As we come together as a subcommittee and through the projects and initiatives with which we engage, we are able to share ideas and generate recommendations to the online consortium for investments which would help strengthen these collaborations across the state. What I would like for you to hear most from this little segment is that we as a subcommittee met consistently, sent out an agenda ahead of time. Having monthly meetings is the default. Canceling a meeting is the news, and set short and long-term measurable goals. We wanted to bring people together in a shared space, have them be able to depend on that meeting, that collaboration happening with the idea that we are better together. And Anne will share with you how we have seen that come true.
Right. So the activities of the COLE OER committee are made available through the Online Consortium of Oklahoma webpage. As you can see from the homepage, OER is listed as a priority for OCO and has its own dedicated page for communicating things like the mission and vision of OER, when the Oklahoma OER Summit is coming up, new materials that are developed, information for the OER training courses that were discussed earlier, grant opportunities, and things like links to OER LibGuides that are created by librarians at Oklahoma institutions. We are also fortunate that we have had the support of OCO to acquire Pressbooks EDU access, which we refer to as Open OCO. Many of you may already be aware of what Pressbooks is, but basically it's an online book publishing platform that has a focus on free educational materials. The OCO Pressbooks access allows OCO members to request an account in order to develop or adapt OER materials. And additionally, OCO member institutions can choose to purchase discounted buy-up access for their individual institution, which provides unlimited projects for students, faculty, and staff. After this was established, another accomplishment has been securing $30,000 in funding for the development of Open OCO Pressbooks OER grants. Those interested in developing OER projects can apply for one of the 3 grant levels. There's a $500 grant for adopting existing OER, $1,000 for remixing or adapting OER, and then $2,500 to create completely new OER. A grant interest form is available on the OCO OER page. Once that is submitted, an initial consultation is scheduled to discuss the project and the requirements of the grant. So far, there have been 19 consultations and 9 grants have been awarded, totaling $11,000. The OER projects supported by these grants use and are developed within Open OCO Pressbooks and will then be available in the Open OCO catalog. Those who have completed a project are asked to provide impact and cost savings data in order to track the estimated monetary savings to students who then use the developed materials. Additionally, an OER contributor badge was developed so that those who have successfully completed an OER project can receive the badge for their own use. This not only demonstrates OCO's appreciation of their work and dedication to OER, but it is also a great way to show others that you are an OER advocate. This badge is issued to those who publish an OER through Pressbooks or contribute to a resource to the Oklahoma OER Commons group. As another way to grow our OER network, learn from other states and consortiums, and receive feedback and advice on our projects and our future direction, a group consisting of members of the COLE OER committee and faculty members of COLE, with Brad here as our team lead, applied for and were selected to participate in the AAC&U OER Institute. The program began in the summer of 2021 and ended this past summer of 2022. Participating groups were provided OER trainings and workshops. We were assigned a mentor and worked alongside other assigned teams from other states to share our stories and to support one another as we developed and worked on our OER goals. Many of the things already discussed, such as tracking cost savings, establishing OER development grants, and providing OER professional development and training opportunities, were goals that were developed during the Institute. And now I'll hand it over to Brad.
Thank you so much, Anne, Kathy, and Jamie, for sharing a little bit about our history and the amazing collaboration groups that we have behind this initiative. And I hope that everybody that is watching our recording or here with us in the live session for this presentation can see that it's an evolutionary story. It's not one where we started with a large scale initially. It was largely a group of faculty and individuals at institutions that recognized there's an opportunity and a need here to focus on affordability of materials for students, but having more attention focused on how we can leverage different units like online education, leadership from our system, and use those building blocks together. That's ultimately how we got to where we are today, of having people, funding, and structures behind all of these things here. So as Anne mentioned, we had an opportunity during this last year to participate in an institute through AAC&U, sponsored through ISME, to really develop a strategic plan for open educational resources for our system. We were also very fortunate in the last year to be able to make a budget request to our board for financial support for open education so that we can further explore this territory and be able to support our faculty as they take advantage of this opportunity here. So really what I see today is that we've entered a new frontier of supporting OER within Oklahoma. In October of 2021, when we first began our participation in the AAC&U Institute, we realized that one of the biggest things that we could do to help ourselves is get the highest level buy-in for what we're trying to do with open education that we could. So we developed a statewide mission and vision statement for OER, as Anne has mentioned, that was endorsed last October by our then chancellor for our entire system. So having these two statements, which I'll shortly read to you, and being able to actually put those in public locations and say, this is a state is where we are headed with OER, it's made our vision, I think, much clearer for faculty at the end of the day, and our staff colleagues as well. So our mission as it stands is that open educational resources will equip the Oklahoma State system for higher education and Oklahoma institutions to create opportunities for diverse, equal, and collaborative knowledge creation and dissemination for students through no-cost, openly licensed materials. Our vision is that OER use will become a standard across the Oklahoma State system of higher education, with all stakeholders understanding the positive impact that it makes on students. That includes students themselves, I should mention, and working together to cultivate the OER development and advocacy locally, nationally, and globally so that OER may impact all learners no matter their situation. So as I mentioned, this mission and vision statement that we can now carry through all of our groups, our projects, initiatives, and events has also led us, I believe, to greater success in being able to actually make a request for funding. So for fiscal year 23, we are actually able to procure $300,000 in support from our legislative allocation. So a couple of the initiatives that we've now been able to grow and actually build a roadmap for include those faculty adoption and creation grants. As Anne mentioned earlier, our online consortium group was largely responsible for initiating a pilot of OER grants for faculty focused on Pressbooks. But with this larger amount of funding that we've had, we can now expand the grant opportunities to faculty beyond our Pressbooks project. So we were able to reserve $235,000 for our faculty for this year, and we'll continue to offer those same grant types that we had already set up through that pilot initiative through COLE and OCO for hopefully something that's going to be sustained with renewed funding year over year. We have also been able to become more attractive to other funding sources. So we were able, for example, to receive funding from the National Association for Concurrent Enrollment Partnerships and the College and High School Alliance for faculty OER grants to support concurrently offered courses. Again, saving those high school students that are taking college classes on the cost of textbooks, because those are largely out of pocket across our state. We have also been able to now offer $50 completion awards to faculty who are going through that OER Basics and Beyond training course that Jamie and Ann and Kathy have talked about within each of their areas there. So while again, it's a small amount at the end of the day for faculty, recognizing that they are spending time and that there is a need to, reward that development that they go through within open education. That's our real mission by offering those funds. We are also, through this legislative allocation, able to offer our institutions support funding for the implementation of Pressbooks or OER development platforms, which again, for those that are on a limited budget, as many of our institutions are, it really does help at the end of the day, even for a small amount, to be able to have those funds to play with and to tailor towards the needs of our specific institutions, because they vary. We have rural community colleges that are just now starting an OER initiative, while we have other institutions like Kathy's at OSU who have a very fully fledged OER system that are underway. They will use those funds differently and have the discretion to do so. We are also looking forward now to being able to issue call for proposals for funded trainings for our system. So considering opportunities such as open educational network membership or customized trainings that we may want to procure elsewhere, we have funding opportunities now available for that through our state system. I will say, those of you that are in positions like mine where you may work at a coordinating board, naturally, all of this will have to be reported on at the end of the day. So we have very good reporting metrics, and mechanisms, and fortunately a good network of individuals who know about these opportunities and can contribute to that so that we can actually evaluate the success of our work at the end of the day. So I hope that, again, that kind of helps you maybe put the cherry on top of this ice cream sundae of awesomeness that's happening in Oklahoma right now that didn't start with me by any means. I think I'm largely a byproduct, of this wonderful work that's been going on. And I will tell you, as I turn it back over to my colleagues to talk about the impact of this work on their campus, that this and these stories that you will hear shortly are really, at the end of the day, what I gauge success on. It's our ability as a statewide system to empower the work in open education on individual campuses, regardless of where they may be or the resources that they have at that time. So Jamie, I will go ahead and turn it over to you first to tell us a little bit about the impact of this work and what you're doing at Tulsa Community College.
Here at TCC, we have a team model for supporting our faculty and their OER efforts. We had some initiatives that were going on internally here that necessitated that level of support. The efforts of Cole and OCO, however, have impacted TCC's efforts positively as well. One of the things that we do each fall is an OER summit. And a couple of years ago at that summit, there were groups of discipline-specific professionals who were discussing ideas and ways that they could collaborate together to promote or produce OER. And I saw after the fact the notes from a librarian session, and there were a couple of librarians with whom I was acquainted here in the state, and they were talking about how cool it would be to make an information literacy textbook as a collaborative effort for undergraduates here in the state to use. And I followed up on that with them. I reached out, I built a team, which included one of the librarians here at Tulsa Community College who works with me, but is not on the OER team. And it worked exactly the way it was supposed to. Through the year of working on that project with there were 4 librarians total, including me as team leader. By the end of the project, not only were those 3 librarians more well-versed in Creative Commons licensing and other issues surrounding the use of open material, but they also came out ready to recruit and lead teams of their own in these efforts and had Pressbooks skills and other skills that lend themselves toward participating and even leading in these types of projects. So it's exactly the iterative model that we were hoping for to continue to spread the word about OER.
I'm Kathy Essmiller at Oklahoma State University, and I'm the coordinator of Open OK State. Our participation in the online consortium of Oklahoma and Cole and the subcommittees has enabled us to intentionally connect with other institutions and individuals across the state. It's given me the opportunity to connect my faculty with subject matter experts at other institutions, whereas they might otherwise have been in silos, right? The silos have been exploded as we connect people. And I can't remember who used that phrase first, but it wasn't me. But I love the ability to connect and network with other people across state. We are 1/3 of our opportunities here at Oklahoma State University have to do with service to the community. So this is a structure through which we are able to engage and live that mission out as we connect with others. As far as metrics are concerned, most of the metrics we would have to share regarding our involvement in this consortium are qualitative. They're mostly stories about personal impact and reflection that people have undergone that then have moved their practice forward in open. For me personally, it gives me accountability and connection right here in the state as we get together every month and we talk about what's going on, and some marvelous things have come out of it other than delightful relationships and great friends. But the IMLS grant that we are a part of along with
East Central University and Tulsa Community College.
Thank you. So that's another thing that happens. It's great about being part of this consortium is that other people know things that you don't. I can remember important details. But our receipt of that IMLS grant grew out of collaborations, which grew and took place and began in those subcommittee meetings. So it's provided a lot of seeds for us to grow from. What a cliche, but it really has. And we've talked about how these connections have then expanded across the state, and we can track relationships. And that for us at Oklahoma State University is really the gist of what this consortium has offered, is the opportunity for relationship that might not otherwise come about.
So I'm Raia. I'm the Director of Library Services at Oklahoma City Community College. The biggest impact for me being a part of this group is the fact that I am the OER person and also the director, which is very difficult. And so having the ability to say, look, this is a priority for COLE. We're a part of COLE. OER is a subcommittee of COLE. We have a regents representative there, working with us, shows, the importance of OER and really focusing on making ground with this. So for me, it's basically even just being able to sort of almost name drop those things and remind my institution who doesn't mean to forget about OER, right? But there's so much going on, especially the last couple of years with COVID. We're overwhelmed by so many things that it's easy to forget about some of these other opportunities. And that's segued into some major courses at OCCC. Like our English Comp 1 and Comp 2 courses are now OER. Both of our Gen Ed history courses are OER. Our first year experience course, which is taken by nearly every student at OCCC, uses all OER and free resources. And at last count, we're around 27 different courses that are using OER. It's really helpful and a lot less scary when you can go to a group of people and say, what can you tell me about accessibility in OER? Because I'm still learning all of this stuff. And so, yeah, that to me is the greatest impact that it makes is like Kathy already talked about, the connections and the kind of the big giant OER group that we've just created across the state.
Thank you so much, Jamie, Kathy, and Ann, for sharing about the impact of this work that happens on your campus. I have the privilege of sitting in the middle of this for our entire system and getting to see these wins that happen every day. And I think that the work that we do matters. I think that we have an ability to set up an OER team on basically any campus within our system and show people how it's done. Without further ado, this concludes the pre-recorded portion of the session, which hopefully we'll have an opportunity to answer some live questions from the audience. So thank you again very much. And thanks, Jamie, Kathy, and Ann.